different episode today, don't we?
Yes.
We have our amazing friend Keane Hughes with us today, and he's actually going to spend some time and kind of interview us and talk to us. So we're kind of excited, and we feel a little weird sitting on this side of the setup here. So it's a little different today.
Yeah.
But guys, we hope you enjoy this, and we'll turn it over to the amazing Keane Hughes.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Keane, for having Karl and Amanda. Yeah, my show now, baby. You guys are in the hot seat.
That's good.
Oh, no, but seriously, I'm excited to be here with you guys. And I think what everyone's probably excited for, and I'm excited for today, is kind of finding out, like, your guys' journey.
Sure.
Because I think you guys have had the opportunity to sit down with some people now and kind of dive into their journeys and what that's been like for them. And I know you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to hear again where you guys have been, where you've come from, and where you're going as well. So I can't imagine what the other listeners are. The excitement is probably, guys, pull over, don't crash. Right? Calm down.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
But let's just kind of jump in. Why don't you guys just kind of start telling us, like, how did you guys meet?
Yeah. So Mandy was in college. And
GRCC.
Yeah, GRCC, and I was a DJ. And so, yeah, I had long hair.
What's your DJ name?
I'm not going to, I don't recall what that was.
A long time
A
ago.
long time ago. So I had like really long hair. And I worked at this place, and we did a college's like college night to this club, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started doing it, only like 30 people showed up, right? So I started doing this at this it was a bar, I guess, and restaurant / bar. Like half of it was karaoke, then half was like a dance floor.
Yeah.
So like 30 kids show up, and then like within a year or so, it was packed. Like you couldn't get in, and there'd be a huge line. And I mean, I was 21, and just thought I was super cool, and
The next big thing.
yeah, like the next big thing to hit GR, and so I was just living my life, and Mandy walked in, and I still remember she's wearing overalls, and
Coming back around. Oh,
she was wearing overalls, and she walked in, and my buddy was sitting next to me, and I hit my buddy, and I said, hey, I'm gonna marry that girl, and he just started laughing. He thought I was the craziest human on earth.
Wait, so the first time you saw
First
her?
time I saw her, yeah, she walked in. She had on overalls, and I mean, I thought she was the prettiest girl I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought I was so taken back that I thought I'm gonna whatever it takes. Like I got to figure this one out. And he literally he thought he knew her too.
Yeah.
That was the other funny thing. I didn't know he knew her. And I hit him. I was like, hey, you see that girl right there? I'm gonna marry her. And he's like, dude, she's way too good for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's no way she's gonna fall for you, is what he said. And I thought, all right, but that was how we met. And then we went on a couple of dates. We went out to eat. We went to, and I think it was our third date. Third day, I was not feeling good. This is really funny. I was really not feeling good. And we'd gone to this restaurant. I don't remember what restaurant it was.
TGI Fridays.
TGI Fridays. And like our food shows up, and I realized, well, I'm gonna pass out.
Oh wow.
Like I'm not doing well. And so I'm trying to get through this date because I want to blow it.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling well. And I think I just passed out, right?
Yeah.
I just passed out right at the table. And so this is so bad. So she takes me to the med center. Our third date, man. Third date. And I'm sitting in the med center, and I cannot stay conscious.
Okay.
Let's get the real version, Mandy. What really happened?
Because I will never forget this
Yeah,
day because he was really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did have a fever. I don't know what was going on with him, but like, the third date, you're still like trying to get
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
And you normally are still like putting your best foot forward.
Yeah,
right?
100%, yeah.
So I bring him to the med center, and he has this leather coat on that he wore all the time.
Yeah.
It was like that, the Tom Cruise pilot coat that he wore all the time. And he's literally, we're in the waiting room, and this was the peek into my future. Is he has his head all back and his mouth is open, and I mean the noises coming from him. But the biggest thing is there was just like this pile of drool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Just drooling.
I mean, it was
drooling.
It went all over, and he wakes up and he's like, "My coat." That's what you're worried
It literally
about?
didn't ruin the coat. I
It
drooled
was
so much
bad.
it ruined the leather coat.
Yeah, it was so bad.
I couldn't stay awake. I would try to keep my head up. I'd try to keep my eyes open. I'm like, oh no, I'm going out. And I didn't want to fall on the floor. It's a waiting room full of people. So I just leaned my head back and pass out. And so they get me back into the room. This is really funny. They get me back in the room and they take my temperature and it was like 104 or something. I mean, it was bad. And they're like, sir, you need to lay down right now. And they're trying to do all this stuff to get my temperature down. And they said, is that your wife out there? And I was like, no, it's my girlfriend's our third date. And the nurse goes, and she stayed? Because they could all hear me snoring. And I was literally just, and like I had long hair, right? So there was just drool in my hair and on my coat. It was a mess.
Man.
And so I had a roommate at the time, and so I had a throat infection. I don't remember what it was. Just a throat infection. And so Mandy brought me home, and I remember she said to Jeff, she's like, "Hey, are you gonna keep an eye on him?" And my buddy Jeff was like, "That's a big commitment," he says. I laid on the couch, and Mandy, kept putting ice on she would put ice on my head and try to keep me cool because my temperature was out of control.
Wow.
And if it went back up, we had to test it every hour or so. I had to go back in the hospital. And I did not want to go back in the hospital. So I think I was sick for like 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And that was our third date. So after that, I thought, man, that I think she likes me.
I mean, she stayed. Lock it down. Lock it
I
down.
couldn't believe it. So that was kind of how we met, and then obviously we got married, and it was. But I obviously I wasn't a Christian. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand anything of like what it meant to even be a boyfriend or a husband or a dad. I mean, I had no clue. So it was unique in that. One of the things that I've said forever is that Mandy's probably the only girl on the planet that would have loved me as a non-Christian and then also loved me as a Christian, right? And so God knew, He knew that if I give him this girl, she'll put up with him for a minute, and then she'll love him, who he's created to be. And so it worked out for me in a way that I think I was super fortunate, and God blessed me in that. And when she walked in the room, and I had never in my life saw a girl and thought that's my wife. It had never happened. It wasn't like any pretty girl that walked in, I thought that. It's just Mandy.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought she was perfect for me. And so I was so, I was mortified that I was sick on the third day, right? But I thought I could just power through.
Yeah.
It didn't work well. Didn't work well. And I remember, the funny part when I first woke up, I'm just going to totally sell myself out here. When I first woke up in the waiting room, I thought, boy, I hope I didn't fart. I didn't realize there was drool all over me.
Wow.
Priorities, right? Priorities.
Yeah, I have my priorities in line, Yeah, good times.
That's super funny.
Good times, yeah. So that's
I
that's
threw
how
up
met.
on my first date with my wife.
Did you really?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm there with you.
Well, yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Yeah, I know your wife. I'm shocked she stuck it out. No, I'm kidding.
So you're 21.
Yeah.
You're DJing.
Yeah.
You're loving life.
Yeah.
You're not saved.
No.
You're still in a journey. You're still in your
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
You're drooling. Man, you kind of what's where are you at this point in your guys' life? Like, you guys just met. Like, are you from a Christian home? Like, kind of bring us through a bit of that with it.
So, I was raised in a Christian home.
Okay.
I was raised Baptist. I was raised old school Baptist, though.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't wear pants. We had to kneel on the floor to make sure they touched the floor. But I do appreciate where I came from because
Yeah.
they did put a foundation in me. But, I was a teenager, and I had come from the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is where I grew up. And I'd went to college in Ohio, but some things happened there, so I ended up moving here to Grand Rapids with my dad.
Okay.
And I'd never really lived with my dad before. He'd never really, because my parents had gotten divorced when I was super little. So I came from the UP where there was like a ton of rules. I always wanted to do the right thing. you know, do this, don't do this. That's what I did. And then I came to my dad's house here, and I was in college, and all of a sudden, like, my dad was like, I was like, what are the rules? And he's like, oh, like, there are none. And I was like, what? There's no rules. Like, there was no curfew. There was absolutely nothing. So I was 18, 19. So, like, I was like, I had a car, my own car, and I was in, like, the biggest city of Grand Rapids that I'd ever been in.
Yeah.
Right? Because Grand Rapids at that time was, like, ginormous.
Yeah.
So I had, like, this freedom I never had before. So I took full advantage of it, right? But there was still that part of me, like, I remember the day I did meet Karl, right? And it was the first time I had ever in my life gone to a bar or a club. And, it was an overwhelming experience for me. And I was with a group of friends who that's what they did. You know, everybody was in college every Thursday night. That's what we went.
Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm trying to fit in, and I'm trying to find who, like, I really am in this moment. And I was so out of my comfort zone that actually I did see Karl, and he was singing a song, right? And I was like, oh, he seems fun. And we ended up actually becoming, like, hanging out with the same group of friends. And, you know, I just got immersed in this place of, I was so loving the freedom. And I got sort of, like, very bitter for the way I was raised, because it was just everything. Because my parents, I have a little bit of a confusing story. My mom still lived in the UP, and she was very, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. And needless to say, I clearly was not living that way, right? I mean, I have children now, so I can look at it from a different perspective. But basically, my mom was like, I'm done with you. Do you know what I mean? There was quite a few things that happened, but our relationship was done. So, like, in me, that just was like, okay, I did all of this stuff, right? And there's no grace. I do a couple things wrong, which I did too, right? And then it was just like, you're done.
Yeah.
So I was so bitter, and I was like, forget this. You know what? This, to me, like, is so much better in that moment. You know what I mean? So that's how I started operating in our life. And then meeting Karl, you know, he wasn't a Christian, so I was like, okay, right? Like,
He'll do.
no.
He's a DJ, let the good times roll.
Right. So that's where I was in my life at that moment. I was saved when I was in college, but I never had the relationship.
Okay.
I don't think I ever experienced a relationship or, like, anything honestly meaningful to me until I came here to the point.
Wow.
Because there was, you know, because I did go to a Christian school.
Yeah.
I went to a Christian college, right? So I knew all the things, and you say the prayer to say the prayer, because you don't want to be the odd person out, right? Of, you know, and then all the time you're saying the prayer when you have revival meetings, right? Like, oh yeah, you know, like, it was that type of thing. So for me, the moment Jesus came into my life as something meaningful and my Savior was when I was here at the point. Because it literally, that's when everything changed for me. So I knew Jesus, but then me and Karl were, like, kind of living our life, and it was just never a part of us. Because I didn't want to have the judgment or the criticism or you know, oh, you did this, now I can't do this. Do you understand? That's what, in my mind, okay, this is what Christianity is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So, so that's how, in the state I was, that I met Karl. he was a DJ, and I was honestly the worst dancer in the
Oh,
world.
dude.
So I mean, it is amazing.
No,
that,
let me say this, right? So I see her walk in, and I was like,
in my bib overalls.
In her bib
and
overalls.
I do remember bib overalls, Abercrombie and Fitch shirt
yeah.
with the one strap down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that was the style back then.
Yeah, she
In the
walked.
UP.
Yeah,
No, down here.
I was here too for like 3 weeks. And but she walks in, and I think, yeah, like there's my wife. I know it. I just knew it.
Yeah.
And like I was a DJ. I loved to dance. I had DJ'd for, I mean, at this point in years.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time. I probably, it was really cool. This guy I knew owned a DJ company. And I think I was like 16, maybe 17. And he had said, like, he would do weddings. I couldn't do bars, I was too young. And he had said, man, you got a really good personality. You don't look 16, because I was like 6'2", I was big.
Yeah.
He's like, I'd like to have you do a couple weddings for me. And I was like, I didn't know what he meant. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you'll be a DJ. And so I loved doing the DJ.
Yeah.
And then when I got to be like 21, probably I was 21.
Yeah.
We had a few accounts at these clubs, and he didn't want to do this one because it had such a small crowd.
Yeah.
Only 30 people, you know? I mean, you got paid some off the door and whatever, but it was like 30 people. And he's like, it's a waste of our time. And for whatever reason, I still, to this day, I could not tell you why. For whatever reason, I was
God.
like, yeah, well, yeah, I was, yeah. It was
Maybe.
yeah.
Just saying.
Right. But I remember I didn't want to give up this account. And I said,
Yeah.
hey, would you mind if I just took this account?
Wow.
And he's like, dude, you're gonna make like $50 a night.
Yeah.
There's 30 people. And I was like, I know, but I got nothing else going on Thursday nights. And he was like, you could find a different gig. We can find something else. I was like, I really want to do this one. So he let me. And so I took over. And I remember the first 2 weeks, literally, like there wasn't a college student in the room. You know, like it was like 30 people that just wandered over from karaoke.
Yeah.
And then over time, it just grew. It grew and grew and grew. And then it would be, you'd have these huge lines, people waiting to come in, and it was so much, it was fun in my world, But I remember watching Mandy, this is so funny. Like, so here I am, I'm a DJ, like I DJ probably 3 or 4 nights a week at this point in my life.
What are you?
A DJ?
Yeah. Wait, I was a DJ and I was a DJ.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I was like,
Those of you at home, in case you're wondering what Carl did for an occupation at this point, is like
it was
he
part of
DJ'd.
it. Yeah, it was part of what I did. I did a few things back then, but it was one of the things. So I'm excited. I was like, whoever I'm dating has to like music, have rhythm,
Yeah.
What
dance.
for the Amanda?
Oh boy, she's literally on the wall in the back corner, and there's probably 300 people in this room dancing. She's in the back corner doing this.
Yeah.
No.
No, I'm dead serious.
No.
The whole.
That's your move?
The whole.
That's your move?
The whole.
Just the finger point?
It's just a
Like the
finger
80s
point.
disco?
It's so bad.
But when it gets jamming,
Dude.
Yeah, she does this.
She's raising the roof.
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness.
okay,
And,
but pause. I did go to college for music.
yeah.
This is the best you come
Yeah,
up with.
So I am very musically inclined, and I have rhythm.
Oh,
I
well.
just don't know how to translate into my body moving to
Yeah.
the rhythm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
this is still
it's
to
bad.
this day.
It's still her move.
Even
Like,
the
I
kid-
can read music, I just can't translate it to the instrument.
There
Same
you
thing,
go,
same
same
problem,
thing,
right?
yeah.
Same problem.
Same thing. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm back there.
yeah, and I remember
And
she-
I was really trying too, because I
was,
was like,
yeah.
"Oh, he's cute. He's a DJ, and he dances so good. He actually
back
dances.
then. I got
No.
a couple janky knees now, man.
So I
Dance
was like, oh man. But you have to remember, this was my first experience ever dancing.
Yeah, she
'Cause
never.
we weren't
yeah.
allowed to dance. I never went to a dance. We never had dances.
Yeah, old school Baptist.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Footloose.
seriously, I never saw. Clearly, that was my move, and I've stuck to it. Like that's what I learned that night.
Yeah, she was very smooth. So yeah, so I want to tell this part of the story. So she's dancing on the wall, and I think, oh wow.
Dancing on the wall.
Yeah,
By the wall.
by the wall. No, she's literally, and I said to my buddies just tell me like she's just a real goody girl,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, like okay, and also in the conversation he had mentioned where she worked, and so she worked at this restaurant called Damon's, and they were kind of
This is the rib joint?
Yeah,
I
they were
remember
kind of known for
Damon's,
the
yeah.
ribs. I wasn't a huge ribs guy. I was like, and then he told me, he's like, I think she's either a waitress or she does the sports thing, because they would always have sports games. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna be going up to Damon's, you know. And so, so I go up to Damon's, and so I guess I probably should tell this part of the story a little bit. Is I did have a girlfriend at the time, and
Before Christ.
yeah, this is pre-Christ. I had a girlfriend at the time,
Yes,
and
you did.
so this particular night, my girlfriend, we were going to go out, and I was like, let's go to Damon's.
Okay, so Carl brings his girlfriend to my work.
Your girlfriend
I did, yeah.
to go hit on another girl.
Well, I wasn't gonna hit on her. I was just, I just wanted to see her.
You went there to see her.
I just wanted to see her, and we were with another couple. And so I cannot believe we're telling this story. And the girl I was seeing at the time gets up to go to the restroom, and Amanda runs over and chucks a piece of paper at me.
I did.
And it bounces off me and lands on the table. And I pick it up, realize it's her phone number, and I look at the other two, and I'm like, don't say nothing.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that was the weirdest meal I've ever had.
It up.
Yeah, it was a weird meal. And so we got done with the day. Like that, the meal ended, we were supposed to go to a movie. And I was like, I cannot go to a movie with this girl. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I came here to see Amanda. I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to hang out with her anymore. I want to call Amanda. And so I went home, called her. She didn't answer.
Well, you paged me because we had pagers.
Yeah,
back then.
paged her. She didn't call me back.
I was at work.
And the next day, I was at work. I had a job. I was in sales as well. And like I paged her, or you paged me. She paged me with a number, and I called, and some guy answered. And I was like, hello? And here's the thing. This is really bad. I didn't know her. I couldn't remember her name. Right.
Walk me through that
Yeah,
conversation.
so the guy answers, and I go, is your daughter home? And now listen, let me tell you about Mandy's dad, Brian.
But could you tell it was an older guy?
Yes.
Okay, so you
Tell
knew
the
it wasn't like a
I didn't-
boyfriend or anything
I
like
knew it wasn't a
that. Okay.
boyfriend or a brother.
Yeah.
And like here's the thing, at the time Mandy lived with her dad.
Yeah.
And then he says, which one? And I'm like, there's more than one girl there? Like, and I go, listen, the one that just paged me. And he was like, And he's like, all right, hold on. And then he says, Amanda? And I was like, yep. Didn't know for sure it was Amanda. And she got on the phone. I was like, oh yeah, that's her. And we talked for a really long time on the phone, and I was supposed to go out in the field to do some sales, and I never left. I just talked to her the whole time. My boss came at one point. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey man, I'm on the phone. I'm probably not going to go to work out in the field today." He was like, "Oh, okay." And I stayed on the phone with her for hours, and then she had to go to work, so she went to Damon's to work, and we met at a restaurant. It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Our first date was at
Yeah,
Denny's.
11 o'clock
At
at night.
11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and so that was when
That's
she got
awesome.
off, and I drove up there, and
Can I just say something, right, for my honor? Ladies, if there is something you want and you know it's yours, go for it, right?
oh boy,
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I knew he was mine.
Yeah.
And that girl is not going to stand in my way.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Classy. Yeah, we
I'm
were
kidding.
very young.
I'm kidding. We were very young.
Very young.
I was 19.
Yeah.
You were 21.
21. I was 21.
So clearly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So like it was this really interesting beginning.
yeah.
And I think for us, for me at the time, it was so impactful. Like how much, like when I saw her, how I felt impacted me greatly. And then like everybody said she was like the nicest, the sweetest. She was all these great things. And then like she gave me her number, and I thought, I can't believe this girl gave me her number.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was gonna have to really work for this, you know, and like
You're
figure it out.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks,
You're
babe.
welcome.
And, so it was an impactful moment in time, and I think for Amanda and I both, when I got married to Amanda, I knew I knew and I wasn't a Christian, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be with this girl. Here's the thing: I remember saying, I'm gonna be with this girl the rest of my life. I don't know if it'll always be good, but I'm always gonna be with her.
Yeah.
And that was what I kind of believed. Like, you know, having a worldly perspective on marriage, most of my family had gone through divorce. My parents were divorced.
Yeah.
I had one aunt and uncle, my Uncle Ralph and Aunt Linda, who had like a really good marriage. And they were kind of like, they were like the rock of like what marriage could look like.
Yeah, like a role model.
Yeah, they really were. But I had all these other aunts and uncles that had been through divorces who, in their own rights, like taught me tons. You know, I learned so much from, and I was so impressed with. And when I looked at my Uncle Ralph, I thought, I am nothing like my Uncle Ralph.
Yeah.
I'm like all my other uncles who tend to not stay married, you know? And I thought, well, I just want to stay with the man the rest of my life. Even if it's really bad, like I want it to be bad with her.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of, I like didn't have hope for a marriage or that marriage worked. I just knew I wanted to be with her forever.
Yeah.
And I think for us, having a worldly perspective on marriage, and like I didn't know she was a Christian. I had no idea. We never. I mean, I would say, you know, I was raised in a difficult home.
Yeah.
My dad was an absolute atheist.
Yeah.
And so I did not, Christianity, the thought of praying to God, all those things, it was so outside of what I thought was real.
Yeah.
I think if she had told me she was a Christian, I probably would have laughed. Like that's where I was at. I had never met a Christian that I was aware of.
Yeah.
That had a really good relationship with God.
Yeah.
And you know, all the Christians I had met were, you know, they didn't seem happy.
Yeah.
You know, and that was my experience with people that were Christians, it was skewed by that.
Yeah.
You know, and so we didn't talk about, you know, we didn't talk about church. And Mandy definitely knew where I was pretty vocal about how I felt about things, you know, and you know, and so like she knew where I stood on the thought of having a relationship with God or God in general. So she didn't really talk to me about it. And I'm probably jumping ahead, but I was going to talk about when our kids were born and stuff. But am I jumping ahead?
No, you're good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you're good.
Well, just for back reference, so we got married when I was 19
Yeah.
and Karl was 21.
Yeah, so long because you guys just say you met at 19.
Yes.
You met at 21.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got married at 19 and 21. So
Yes.
what's that time frame from the time you guys meet to the day you guys get married? Give us the breakdown.
Well, okay, hold on.
No.
All right, let me
answers,
just straight
straight
answer. So
answers.
here's the thing. This is very important to mention. Is that Mandy was in like this group of people that they would come to the club I was at,
Yeah.
and I was friendly with a couple of the guys, and so I would go to different things that they would invite me to. If I was doing like a house party or something, I would invite these guys. And so we knew of each other, right? And we had talked like a couple of times, like, "Hey, how you doing?"
He had a girlfriend, so.
Yeah, we didn't talk. It was just like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?" And so we kind of knew of each other for about 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Two-ish months. 2 months.
You're not making it better. Just give us the time
so
frame.
2 months. So from the moment she threw me her phone number till we were married, was like 23 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 23 days.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
It was. And I think this is, oh man, none of my friends could believe it.
I don't think anybody could.
No.
Yeah. I don't think there's many friends in the world that would
Right,
believe would get on board with that quick.
This is how bad it was. When I came home to tell my roommate Jeff I was going to marry Amanda. I said, you know, listen, I'm going to get married to Amanda. And he goes, is that Thursday? And I was like, yeah. He's like, her name's Amanda? I was like, yeah, her name's Amanda.
Wow.
And like it was so new and fresh. Like my buddies, they were taken back, but they were. I will say this, they were supportive.
They were supportive.
They were supportive, and Jeff was. He was a great friend, a great roommate, and he was. And I remember him saying, like, Karl, I think you can make marriage work. He's what he said. Now I had another buddy, Bill, and he was like, Karl, man, you are gonna screw this up. does she know who you are? I was like, well, I gotta marry her quick. She's from the UP. She'll
She'll
figure
try.
out. She'll
23
figure out in
days.
a few months. She can do better, you know. And so, yeah, we only dated about 23 days and got married, which is not what I would recommend for anyone on the planet.
No,
But,
no.
Can I ask you guys a question about that?
Yeah.
That'll get him. Would you say, looking back now, obviously, like God's had favor on you
Yeah.
guys, and you guys have come to know God and had a relationship with Him. Do you look back at that time and do you think like it was a genuine, like, even though you didn't know God then, back then, like being a God moment? I know God's in everything in our lives.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or do you look back and think maybe we got caught up a little bit in our emotion and the
No.
honeymoon feel?
No, it was
No,
definitely
it was
God.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been. There's been a handful of my lives I was so certain on something
Yeah.
that nothing was gonna move me from it. And when I met Mandy, I was certain.
That's so cool.
And I remember it was funny because I had a girlfriend and I broke up with her to be with
Yeah.
Amanda, and I had never done that. Like my roommate at the time was like, wow, you're not gonna see so and so anymore. And I was like, no. He's like, wow, he couldn't
All in.
believe it, and he had never seen me like I wasn't a good boyfriend, you know,
Yeah.
and he had never seen me like want to take a girl out a ton and want to always calling her on the phone. Like Mandy would call and I would jump up to answer. If Mandy said she was coming over, I'd clean up the apartment real quick.
Yeah.
And I remember, hey, listen.
version of cleaning, right?
Jeff was super impressed. I remember I jumped up and started cleaning. He's like, where's this Amanda girl been the last 2 years? Because we've been roommates for 2 years. And I wasn't known for cleaning up the place, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, I was just 100% certain.
That's so
and it was,
cool.
it was, I just absolutely, without question, knew it was, I would say it was absolutely a God thing. And God.
But we didn't know that.
No, I didn't. At the time, I didn't understand it.
because
Right.
you don't have a.
And
Yeah.
I do think, too, I'm so thankful that while we didn't know God was working, God was there because at that age, for I think both of us, you know, I mean, you've been 19, 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that age, you in your mind know everything.
Smartest
right?
person on the planet.
Yeah.
You know everything about every single thing.
Still growing out of that.
And I know there were people, like my dad said, are you sure, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is there to marriage? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it's gonna be
Glorified
great,
roommates.
right? Exactly. And so I think, like, there was no wavering on either one of our parts. I think there were nerves, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like, I'm thankful that with that, like, we knew, but God was working there and never changed our mind on that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But now looking back, if my child came
Oh,
to me,
yeah,
then
listen.
I would be like, I would not have been as calm as my dad. Let me just tell you.
I remember I called my mom on the phone.
Sorry.
To tell her I was, gonna marry Amanda. She's like, have we met her? So I explained who she was. She's
You
like,
ever been to Damon's?
Right, yeah, I explained who she was, and I had brought her over to my mom and grandma's house
Yeah.
within that 23 days.
Yeah.
And it was probably only the third girl I'd ever introduced to my mom.
Yeah.
So my mom was shocked, And my dad, this is so funny. I did not introduce Mandy to my dad because he's just a rough guy,
Yeah.
And I called him up. Well, I went to go see him. I went to his house and I was like, "Hey, Dad, like, listen, I'm gonna get married," and he said, "Oh, I can't stand that girl," and I was like, "Oh, good news, Dad, it's not her." He's like, "What?" I said, "I'm marrying this girl named Amanda." He's like, "Oh, well, well, that's better." That's what he said. I was like, "All right, cool." But it was this time of. Like, I knew all Mandy friends were going to tell her how horrible I was.
Yeah.
Like, I knew as soon as we were going to get married that all of her friends were going to be like, do not marry Karl. They had probably told you not to date me.
No, they never told
All
me
right,
that.
fair enough. But did they tell you not to marry me?
I think it happened all so fast.
Yeah, maybe we
that-
have a
You had
chance.
23 days. No one had a chance,
Yeah.
right?
Oh no, we had 6 days from when he asked me to marry him till we actually got married.
Yeah.
It was 6 days.
Yeah, we went to
Yeah.
the courthouse.
We went to the
Yeah, I went to the
courthouse.
courthouse, and
Yeah.
she was
so-
late.
I ran
Story
out
of our
gas.
marriage.
I ran
Story
out
of our
gas.
marriage.
I
Yeah.
ran out of gas on the
Listen, this is 100% true. We've been married 22 years, and probably every couple of times I get in to drive the car, it says 0 range for the gas. And I'm like, baby, you passed like 6 gas stations on the way to the house. And like, do you time it perfectly to never put gas in this car? And
That's awesome.
but so she was late, and I was standing there, and my dad was there, and my mom, and she's late. My dad's like, maybe she ain't showing up, And I was like, oh, she'll be here. And I remember
It was before the days of cell phones.
Yeah.
So
Did you
couldn't-
think that there was a potential that she
No,
might
this is
not
what I'm
come?
saying. I was so certain she was going to show
Yeah.
up. I went out and started filling out the marriage license.
Wow.
And she was late. It wasn't like she was like 2 or 3 minutes late.
Yeah.
She was late. And everybody was starting to be like, oh, how's Karl going to take this? And I'm just filling out the marriage license. And then I got to a part where I could fill out her side. And I was like, I don't know her last name. I don't know her middle name. I don't know her date of birth. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to let her fill that out. Like I was doing something really heroic.
This is her special
Yeah,
moment.
this is her special moment. She can fill that side out, And so she came in, and I was just like, okay, here we go. And this was so crazy. She's filling out her side, and my birthday is February 21st.
Yeah.
And so she's filling out her birthday, and she puts February 20th. And I was like, oh, she messed up. My birthday's the 21st, but she should have put her birthday.
Yeah.
And I pointed at it to tell her, and I was like, wait a minute, is that your birthday? And she was like, we're 1 day apart. Well, we're like 2 years and 1 day, but whatever, and like I remember the person watching us filling it out going, you don't know each other's birthdays, And
I didn't even know what my last name was.
yeah,
Be.
like we
Wow.
I had no clue.
That's incredible.
I literally was like, I wonder what my, because I didn't have time to go shopping for a dress, so I went to Deb's and got,
Yeah.
a black velvet dress for a wedding. Anyways.
Yeah.
But I was like on my way there while I'm waiting for gas to come because I'm broke down on the S curve. I was like, oh, I wonder what my last name is gonna be.
Wow.
Because I had no clue what my
That
name
is
would be.
crazy.
Yeah, so then
And
we
no cell
got
phone.
married.
No cell phone, no each other. That's nuts.
No.
Like I said, this is one of my favorite parts of your guys' podcast. Is this stuff right here where you get to figure out like what crazy scenario came up from 2 people to meet.
yeah.
Like you've got 2 people that aren't walking with God in their life.
Yeah.
Your boss is trying to get rid of an account, and you're like, no, I just want to have some fun. Let me go DJ.
Yeah.
It's your first time going in. Like it's just crazy how worlds meet like
Absolutely.
that, and just how even before we know it, God's hand is at work and on our lives, and just paving a way for us.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts.
No, cool.
Fanboy moment there for me. So anyway, let's keep moving. So I want to make sure we can get through everything today. So you guys, 23 days, married.
Yep.
So you're married, and then I know your guys' last podcast, you kind of went over your testimony with Andrew and Angela. So kind of bring me from marriage to coming to the point.
Yeah.
Kind of just fill in that blank, and then we're gonna jump from. Don't go into your guys first. We just went over it, and then we'll jump to kind of where your
Totally.
journey took up from there.
Yeah, do you want to go first, or?
So we get married, and Austin arrived relatively soon.
Yeah, about 9 months later.
Yeah. You guys were excited.
And then we had Chandler and Nicole.
Yeah.
And during that time, we didn't know each other at all before we got married. We knew in the version that you put on,
Yeah.
right?
The fake you.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to impress you. We're
Correct.
still
Yeah, I mean,
getting to know each other.
Right.
I was trying to convince her I was a catch, you know what I mean?
Right.
At-
So,
before or after drooling?
right.
Like at what point did you think you still were a catch?
Yeah, it's well said. It's well said, yeah.
So, there was some work involved.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work, and also through this whole journey, like God is not even. If anything in my life, it is solidified, right? Okay, I made the right decision,
Yeah.
right? And because things with my mother just got worse downhill from there. So I think for us, we were trying to figure out how to actually be a married couple.
Yeah.
And we were young, and it honestly just wasn't going the greatest in our life.
It was, from jump, right? So the first year we were married,
Yeah.
Mandy totaled both our cars, right?
Okay.
Both
they
of
were
them.
both in accidents.
Yep, she had a couple car accidents. She totaled both of our cars. But I had this job in sales where that's where I made 90% of my income.
Yeah.
And when I found out when me and Mandy were gonna get married, I knew I couldn't keep DJing. Like I didn't want to be gone at night. I didn't want to. I wasn't.
Oh yeah, I forgot you.
She was pregnant, and so I couldn't have her coming to the clubs. And I thought I can't do this anymore. This isn't the lifestyle that's conducive to being a husband. So I quit DJing. And now I'm just doing the sales job. And I mean, within 6 months, she had totaled both the cars.
Accidents.
Yeah, well, yeah, but still totaled, right? Like totaled them, and I lost my job. Within the first 6 months, the company I worked for got bought out.
Yeah.
And they got rid of all the sales force, all the sales. I was a sales manager at the time, and they got rid of everyone.
Yeah.
And so here we are. We had a kid on the way. We had no car, because I lost my job like weeks after she totaled the last car. And we're sitting in this house, and I'm like, well, how are we gonna navigate this?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the very beginning. I remember my dad went and paid for a car on a debit card or something, gave me a car.
Yeah.
And I started looking for jobs, and I found a job to working in furniture, and I got paid like half of what I did at my last job.
Yeah.
And we were still living with my roommate, at the time, and it was we were trying to figure out how to do it, but that was like
real life was happening, and
quick,
right?
Like
And,
you guys, 23 days married, and then all of this happens.
yeah, and then. I don't know if this is for guys, but for girls, I think once you get married, you have this thought of this is what marriage is going to be, and it's just not always real life because you don't ever think of.
Yeah.
So we're trying to navigate real life, not knowing how even each other handles really a bad situation. Do you know what I mean? Because honestly,
Had a chance to.
Right, we really don't know who each other are even at this point in our relationship at all.
Yeah, and I think so. We totaled the 2 cars job. We're trying to figure out how to be with each other, how to be a husband and wife. Mandy totaled the 2 cars, and
Carl's a DJ, Mandy told
not anymore.
Yeah.
Gave it up. And so we lived in 3 different places our first year.
Yeah.
We had my bachelor palace that we moved into when we first got married, and then we went to a house that we rented for a while, and then we moved into this apartment complex over on Alpine. Yeah. Alpine, Michigan. It's a street. Alpine's in Comstock Park. And so we were staying there. So in the first year, I mean, we totaled 2 cars. And I lost a job. Mandy lost her job. Like there was a lot of turmoil. But I will say this: I was at peace that we were gonna be okay. Like I knew we were gonna figure it out. I knew it would be okay. I don't know if Mandy was in as much peace as I was.
No.
But I was like, it's gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. But she was about to have a kid, and I didn't have a job. And then finally I get this job at the furniture store, and I start working there. And it's literally half the money I used to make.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to navigate this new world of, now we have a kid and we're super immature. We don't understand what it means to listen to each other.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant again.
She got pregnant again. We had Austin, and we were just kind of settling in. She had a job at the hospital, and I was working, and we were okay. Financially we were good. Everything was going good. And I come home one day. I was playing tennis, so I played a little football with this guy, and we'd come and play tennis.
Yeah.
And he was coming to my house to play tennis. So I was getting ready to play tennis, and Mandy comes onto the tennis court with Austin, and she's watching. I can tell something's wrong. Didn't know what it was. And we get back to the house. She pulls me. She's like, "I think I'm pregnant."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Okay." Again? like, how does this keep happening?
Right. How does that happen?
And
I can explain it later.
yeah. And I remember I had this moment of shock, and then I was super excited.
Yeah.
And I remember calling her Uncle Paul, and I just wanted to tell somebody. So I call Uncle Paul and Aunt Jackie, and I'm like, "Mandy's pregnant," and I'm all excited, and they were probably in shock.
Yeah.
She's pregnant.
What are you guys doing?
Austin wasn't even a year old. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
He was what, 7 months old, 8 months old?
Something like they're 16 months.
They're 16 months apart. So, but I was excited because I loved being a dad.
Yeah.
I loved being a husband, even though I was terrible at it. I just genuinely loved it.
Yeah.
And having another, in my mind, I knew it was gonna be a boy. So having another boy, I was like so excited. We're gonna have 2.
Yeah.
I can teach him how to box. Like, this is gonna be fantastic, you
Yeah.
know. But it was chaos.
Yeah.
And then we have Chandler. And the day after we have Chandler, I took a promotion with my job and we moved to Indiana.
The day
Wow.
after I had Chandler, we moved to
Yeah.
Indiana.
Day after she got home from the hospital.
That
And
next day we moved.
And the next day I packed up the
So
truck.
I feel like there's a theme of you guys really like to take your time and think about things and go real slow in life.
yeah. It was funny because we had talked about me taking, because I was in like this management training program, whatever it was, for this company, and we had 1 kid at the time.
Yeah.
Mandy was not pregnant. And she was like, yeah, I'd be willing to move anywhere except she didn't want to live in Vegas. And I was like, all right, no problem, Nevada. She didn't want to live in Nevada. I was like, fine, no problem. So I put on my thing everywhere I'd go except, I put every state except this one, you know. And then she gets pregnant. And I don't really think about the fact that I've already said I'll go anywhere except for Nevada, right? And so, like, you know, I get through this. They'd fly me out to Denver, and I'd do these trainings, and I'd come back, and then I'd interview for different jobs.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had interviewed for a couple in Indiana, and, you know, they picked somebody else who was better. You know, and I was like, no big deal, it'll come along at some point. And I get a call one day, and they're like, hey, we got an opening for you. It's in Indiana. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, Indiana's really close. But it was like Evansville, Indiana, which is next to Kentucky. It's like literally, if you toss a pebble, you hit Kentucky.
The middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's the middle of nowhere. And I was like, Evansville, Indiana, and they have this basketball team called the Evansville Aces. And they're actually like they're like phenomenal. They're phenomenal with defense. Just so if you ever want to watch it, it's amazing. And so I'm looking at all the sports
Not
teams.
worth moving there.
No, it's not worth moving there. And so I go out there first and find us a place, and then I come back and like literally we move, you know. And I think I moved the day Mandy came home from the hospital, and then Mandy moved like a week later.
Wow. No, I moved it. We next day. I was.
Oh, you're right.
So you guys have had Chandler.
Yep.
And then
We're in Indiana.
You're in
and
Indiana.
then we moved back up here to Michigan.
So we were in Indiana about 2
2
years.
years.
And in that time frame, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And that for me, you know, it really impacted me because Mandy woke me up, said, you're not gonna believe this, a plane just accidentally crashed into the Trade Center.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not possible. And then she goes, another one just did it too. And I was like, girl, we are under attack. You know, like there's something happening.
Wow.
And I know, like, you know, being an American and growing and like that was my first. It was a very traumatic experience in my life, and it made me rethink everything. And I was like, I do not want to live this far away from all my family and all of Mandy. I want my kids to know our family.
Yeah.
Like Mandy comes from just this amazing, like loving and caring and compassionate family that that instantly took me in as like we got a cousin Timmy. He's a couple years older than me. It's Mandy's cousin, and man, he treated me like I was he'd known me his whole life the first time I met him. He was just so like I'd never experienced a family like this. Like, you know, all our aunts, Aunt Rita, all of them, you know, and I was like, I want my kids to know them because, man, if something bad happens and I'm not here, like they'll take care of them.
Family.
You know, I know this family will take care of them. And I wanted to know my aunts and uncles and my cousin. I have a cousin Nathan, and I you know, I have these people I want them to know. So I quit my job.
Wow.
I call them up. I say, listen, I can't do this anymore. You know, I need to move back to Michigan. And they did not want me to leave. You know, my career was going pretty well. They did not want me to go.
Yeah.
But I did. I came back, and that was another big change. You know, here we are. We had, you know, we really were very career focused. You know, and that was our driving force. We had 2 kids. We're in Indiana, and then I decide, no, like I need to change everything. And so we moved back, and that was probably our hardest season as a married couple.
Yeah.
You know, we were back, we were with family, and I certainly fell back into some of my old patterns of going out with my buddies and not being, you know, as paying as much attention to what was happening in my home. And Mandy was, you know, Mandy at this point now, she was 21. I mean, that sounds crazy, but she was in her 20s now, and so she's going out with her old college friends, and we're reconnecting with friends.
Yeah.
We just spent two and a half years in Indiana where we didn't have all of our
Yeah.
friends, and so we were making new friends, and we were making friends with people that had kids. And now we're back, and none of our friends are married with kids.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of just doing our thing, and our marriage suffered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were struggling in our marriage, but we were doing everything we could to be as happy as we could,
Yeah.
and to have. But it was a tough time. And then we had Nicole.
And then I was pregnant again.
Yeah, she's pregnant again with Nicole, and
Then our house burned down.
yeah. So she gives birth to Nicole, and like a couple months later, our home burns
Wow.
down.
Yeah.
And we lose
like, it was just
everything, like
Jeez.
everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything. The kids each had a diaper on. Mandy had a robe, and I had a pair of jeans. And it was like winter.
Yep.
And
It
we
was,
have nothing. Like we have
was-
nothing.
Wow.
January.
Yeah, it was January. We have nothing. It was right after Christmas. All the Christmas, everything burnt up.
way.
Yeah, everything's gone.
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, well, we're gonna start over again, And I'm making jokes about it because I'm like, you know what? How bad can it be? We'll just buy everything again. It's just money. And Mandy's like, I'm sure she's like, do I want to rebuild again with this guy? Like, I mean,
I've been around this mountain a
I've
couple
been on
times
this
now.
mountain a couple times, And so we talk about, as Chris, we talk about like judging things by the fruit of things. And I think if you were standing on the outside looking at our marriage, you couldn't have seen a lot of fruit,
No.
right? Like, I don't know if I mentioned the first year we were married, Mandy crashed both our cars, and so I think if you were watching, but they also didn't understand, like I think I would like to believe that Mandy loved me that entire time, and I know I loved Mandy that entire time, but we weren't getting along, and we weren't making decisions that were helpful to our marriage.
No.
Yeah.
We kind of just started living our own lives.
Yeah, we lived
Doing-
two
yeah,
separate
two
lives
separate
as a
lives.
couple.
Yeah.
We weren't
Yeah.
doing anything together.
But we were still trying to be good parents to
Yeah.
our kids because, we loved our kids. But for us, it was kind of, okay, you do your thing and I'll do my thing.
Yeah, and that was literally what it was.
What
I
it
mean,
was.
We would sit there like, at holidays, like St. Patrick's Day or New Year's, and Mandy would go out and I'd stay home with the
St.
kids.
Patrick's Day.
Listen, hold on. When you're not a Christian, that's a holiday, man. That's a holiday.
I understand that.
And as a non-Christian, we
Yep.
counted that as one of our, we're going to go out holidays, And
Yeah.
so sometimes I'd stay with the kids, man, go out sometimes. But we never did anything together because
No.
everything about us was separate. We were living
Yeah.
in the same home, but
We were literally just roommates.
were just roommates. I mean, she would go to bed way before I did. I would get home later, and we were just like,
Yeah.
to be, but we had a ton of fun together. And so, all my friends would be like, they'd always say, man, your wife's so much fun. You guys just really have a lot of fun together. And I'd be like, yeah, it's perfect. But when I would look at, other married
Yeah.
people I knew, I was like, well, here's the difference. They're in a relationship together, and me and Mandy are two individuals that live in the same house.
Just know how to have a good time.
Yeah, we would start businesses. It was so funny. We would start these little businesses, like candle businesses, and Mandy would take her half, and then I had my half.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I would come home, and she would hand me her stuff that she had done for the day, and then I'd take it downstairs, and I'd do the half I was responsible
Yeah.
for. So even if we were doing a candle business, right, we did it completely separate. It was
Yeah.
never together. And that was kind of like the culture of our family. And after, doing that for many, many years,
Many years.
we had gotten to the point where we had some catastrophic things in our marriage that were breaking it down.
Yeah.
And now I didn't think we could stay married, and Mandy didn't think we could stay married, and it was not good.
So what did
And-
that look like? Did you guys have an arrangement? Were you guys still
yeah,
living together? Did you
No,
ever
still living
separate?
together. We sat down and talked. I have a family where there's been a few people that have gotten divorced,
Yeah.
and the thing is, we
And there was honestly nobody speaking
No.
anything good into our marriage.
Nobody
right?
helping
It was
us.
just
No
like,
one that
oh,
had any wisdom for
I
us.
understand
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
to totally get out. Do you know
Yeah,
what
totally
I mean?
get divorced. This makes sense.
So that
Speaking
was
from their experience, what
Yeah.
they know.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
and literally, I mean, we'd never done this before, right? We were just like, oh yeah, I mean, okay, it's super hard. I'm with you. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And I think
That
I had
was
a
the voices coming
yeah,
into our
and I had a
marriage.
family where my aunts and uncles would get divorced, but then
They'd all still be
They'd all
friends.
still be at
Like there were
Christmas.
like
Yeah.
5
You know what I mean?
aunts at
yeah,
Christmas,
I'd introduce,
right?
we'd go to the thing, and it'd be like, oh, who's this? I'd be like, oh, that's my Aunt Debbie, and she's like, oh, he's married to. Well, she used to be married to my Uncle Jack, but it's my cousin Nate's mom, and she was still there, and she was still my aunt.
Yeah.
Them getting divorced didn't change her being my aunt.
Yeah.
So that was this family I was a part of, that if the marriage ended, it didn't change the fact we were family.
Yeah.
And so my idea of which I will be honest, as a kid, man, like I wasn't happy when any of my aunts and uncles got divorced. Like it was sad, but like I knew I wasn't losing my aunt or my uncle. Like I knew they were still gonna be at the family stuff. They're still gonna be at the pool. They're still gonna help us do roofs. I could still call them. Like, we were a very close-knit family. And
anyways, we had a discussion.
Yeah.
About how we were going to operate.
Yeah.
Not being together.
Yeah. She was still going to come to all my family stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go to hers because her family didn't view divorce the same way as mine. I was like, okay, fair enough, you know. But I was like, I remember asking, can I still hang out with, if I want to hang out with Timmy, is that okay? She was like, yeah, it's fine. And so we had this conversation. So we were in separate rooms. And maybe.
Separate rooms in our house.
Yeah, in our house.
Because we wanted our kids to have something as normal as possible.
Yeah. They still kind of wanted to be a unit.
Yeah. We liked each other. Like we were
friends.
Yeah.
We just had absolutely no relationship.
And we did argue. We were arguing all the time.
Right.
And I was like, this is not good.
Yeah, I didn't think you guys were having troubles because you got along so well.
Right, yeah, we were arguing all the time.
So,
And so we had this big plan, and
then
so
Greg Hammond came in.
Well, can I tell my apartment story? I had this sweet apartment lined up. So I find this amazing apartment.
He's still bitter.
It's a great apartment, And I'm like, Mandy, we come look at this, and she comes over and she's like, all right, let's buy furniture for it. So she decorates it for me and gets it all, helps me get it all set up. And I go to work and I tell Greg Hammond, like, hey, I'm getting divorced and I got my new place. And he goes, I know something that'll fix that. And I thought, Mom, I don't know what do you mean fix it. Like, it ain't broken, man. We're cool. Me and Mandy, Mandy wants to be divorced. Like, she's not home sad. He's like, well, will you come to church? And I don't know why I said, I do know it was God, right? I just said, yeah, sure. And then 2 weeks later we went, we told that story, And the thing I probably didn't mention is when I got saved, we went from we're going to get divorced to I was writing Mandy love letters and couldn't imagine not. God changed my heart in an instant on what marriage was.
That's incredible.
And we instantly moved, instantly we were in the same room and we were happy and there was peace in our home. I'm not saying it was perfect, we still had to navigate some challenges.
We had to learn how to actually now have a relationship with each other that was healthy, right? Yeah. And so that took a while. And we also needed to learn how, along with that, how to actually be parents with our kids, right?
Yeah.
So, it took a lot of work, but I do have to say, in that moment when we were here at church, literally everything changed. Because the kids, we tried to hide everything from the kids, but they are way smarter than we actually, give them credit for. Especially our oldest, Austin. He knew everything that was going on. So for him to watch what had happened, I think
it changed
him. And even now, he'll still talk about old dad, new dad. Do you know what I mean? But they were on that journey with us. They actually helped us in our parenting, in our relationship. We had to now build a good foundation of what we should have done.
Yeah. When I was listening to the last podcast, and you guys were talking about with Andrew and Angela about kind of your testimony, coming to church and things like that. One of the questions I had that I kind of wanted to ask you guys is, you guys have had all these experiences. You've got 3 kids. You're older in life. You come, you get saved. Your world instantly shatters. Right? Your whole belief system has completely flipped.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you guys as parents? Because I can imagine, I know you guys are you're having issues in your marriage, but you must have a plan for your family, right? You have a plan of how you want to raise your kids.
Yeah, we had a plan.
It wasn't a good plan.
No, I'm not saying it's a good plan, but I sat there wondering, I wonder what that's like to have kind of a vision, and then in a moment's notice, have your earth shattered, but not just have shattered, but then try to be I don't know anything about this life. How do I do this?
Yeah, it's actually an excellent question, because for me, I remember getting saved.
I remember going home the day he got saved. And we walked inside, because literally he was supposed to be moving out.
Yeah.
Right?
That day?
No,
a couple of
you were in the process of it.
I was within 7 days of
he had his apartment and stuff, right? And I remember him getting saved, right? And all of us were like super quiet, right? Even on the way home, I was like, I am
Crickets,
not.
man. No one said nothing.
Because as you heard, my experience was like the week before,
Yeah.
right? And me and the kids all sat down and we had a conversation.
Yeah.
And then when Karl got saved, I was like, nobody say a word.
Well, he's
right?
crying.
Like,
No one's seen him cry before.
no. And I
Yeah.
was like, we are not ruining this moment, right? And we were just like, and we went in the house and we looked at each other. And I think for the first time, us looking like, it was like, we honestly have no clue what to
Yeah.
do. No clue what to do at all. And I think the only thing that I knew for sure was that, okay, I want my family together.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll do whatever I need to take, to make this work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I didn't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I was really good at being Karl before I got saved. You know, I really,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew what I liked to do, and,
Yeah.
and you know what? I wasn't like, listen, I look back on who that guy was, and I don't recognize his thought patterns,
No.
how he reacted to things. I don't recognize any part of that in myself anymore.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I think there was people that would say I was nice, but there's a lot more people that would say I wasn't nice,
Yeah.
and I would probably agree with both of them. And I think I think Mandy was scared of me, and the kids were scared of how I was. Like they were obedient to me out of fear, not out of love. And I'm the kids, right?
Yeah.
They and so that was. I'm sitting in my house. I'm like, I don't know how to be a dad anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even know what being a husband is.
Yeah.
Like, does Mandy actually want to? Like the week before, she had said, "I don't want you to move out. I think we should stay married." And I was like, "Well, I'll go to church one more time." But like, listen, this is
So last
chaos,
time.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm freaking out, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I think, I know that at church they pray, so I'll do that. And I know they read this Bible. And Greg Hammond had just given me one, so I just sat down and started reading the Bible.
And we also watched.
We watched every Christian movie. Every single one, man.
Like,
so awesome.
like the
Oh, every single one.
Everyone. We made all the kids watch them.
Oh, we were like, guys, this guy planted potatoes because of Jesus. Watch it. We watched every
That's
Hallmark.
so
But that's
cool.
really all we knew
Yeah, we
to
just
do,
Yeah.
right?
We had no clue.
And then we started coming regularly, and we did find out, like Greg and Sandy
Yeah.
Huge
were
help.
so gracious to
Yeah.
us and kind to us.
Quentin and Kathy.
Quentin and
Yeah.
Kathy,
Oh, man.
like,
So
they would
kind.
speak into our lives without it being like, okay, now this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
They would speak wisdom,
Yeah.
and they taught us how to have a better
Yeah.
relationship with ourselves, with God, with our kids.
And I was rough. Like, I was rough. And
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, they
I was around when you guys first started coming.
and they were kind. Like,
They were kind.
We talk about, we inside of our church, we believe in like community
Yeah.
and having groups that grow together. And we were part of one of those, and like the Carstens were in it, and
Yeah.
like all these people helped shape us, but also showed us grace for
Yes.
what I was figuring out. And
Because I mean,
we had a
would
lot to
do-
figure out,
yeah.
and we made a lot of we didn't understand Christianity. We were learning, and
Because you got to remember, this is my first time having a relationship.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
you can do this and we can't do this, right? Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
it was so,
So,
different.
yeah.
And but I remember God speaking to me, through His Word and through my prayer time, that like I need to be a really good dad and a really good husband. And so I remember we sat the kids down, and I literally just, they were young, and I said, guys, listen, I need to repent to you.
repent.
I'd read in the Bible that you repent, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, I need to repent to you for how I've raised you, and I'm not really sure how to do it moving forward, but I'm gonna figure it out. And I remember
That's so powerful.
Chandler, he was really little,
Yeah.
and he says, "Does that mean you won't ever spank us?" And I was like, "It might." I'm not sure.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
And
I got a
Austin,
couple more chapters to go. Let me
Yeah.
see if it's in there.
and Austin, I remember Austin was like, "Dad, you'll figure it out. It'll be fine." And Nicole was like, "Can I dance?" She was really
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
But I remember I just repented to it because I didn't know what else to do, and I knew that was part of the process of,
Yeah.
we repent and we turn to something new, and I had just repented of who I was and asked God into my life, and so I understood it worked.
Yeah.
So I just repented to him, and then I remember I was like, we need somebody to help us. So like we met with Jeff and Gail. They pastored us through our marriage, and they took us through different marriage courses. And I'm sure Jeff and Gail could tell you some stories about the dumb questions we asked. But we would sit in there, and then like they would say, "Well, this is how you are." Like we were watching this series, and this is how you should be as a husband. And man, the whole way home, Mandy be mad that that's not how I was yet. You know, I'm like, we just watched the video, and then we'd watch how a wife was supposed to be. On the way home, I'd be all mad she wasn't that way yet. She's like, we just watched the video. You know,
10 minutes.
Yeah, like what's going on? You know, why is it taking so long? And I think, and even in how we argued, like we would still. I remember the first time we had a disagreement as Christians. Like it was different. But Mandy instantly went, "Oh no, here we go. The old Karl's back because he's frustrated." And I was like, "That guy's never coming back." But I can still get frustrated as a Christian, you know. And then our arguments became straight out of the Bible. Like it'd be like, "Get behind me, Satan! I'm not casting my pearls. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I'm not casting my pearls before swine." Yeah, we were arguing in their kitchen one time, like a small argument, nothing big, just like a bickering. And I said,
Get behind
me, Satan. And Satan went, "Oh, sweetie, no." And she pulls us together. She's like, "Guys, don't use Bible verses to fight." And I was like, "Well, what book do we use for that?" She was like, "You just don't have to use anything. You just sit down and talk." And I was like, "What's that look like?"
That's so incredible.
We had this community, and I say this all the time, like Jesus saved me. Yeah. But the church saved my marriage and saved my kids. And that's why we have such a passion for the church. Is it really saved us. Yeah. If we, you know, I think about this all the time, like, you know, Jesus saved me, and like from that moment on, like I'm going to heaven. I know that. Like I get it. I'm in. But if I had gone home and never given ourselves to the church, and asked them to partner with us and help us and shape us and be part, like I wanted to figure out what body part I was, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I?
Yeah, spleen.
So true. And I think it's the church saved us, and it saved our kids, and it saved our marriage, and it really did repair everything.
And that's so cool.
And the grace that this church had for us, like I think about it all the time. And I think, and like, listen, I know you can have a story of somebody not having enough grace.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest. You know, my experience was, if someone didn't have enough grace, they were super sorry for it in a couple of days. And everybody else had so much, I had nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember we showed up to the first big church thing we went to outside of like a Sunday.
Yeah.
Was a camping trip. The church did a camping trip.
Yeah, we got rained out on.
We got rained out, but that's not the part of the story I wanted to tell. The part of the story I want to tell is I assumed, okay, it's a camp trip. So I brought 68 beers. And I start pulling out the cases of beer, and I'm like, none of these church people are drinking. Like, oh, I brought them enough beer for everybody. You know, no problem. And so we're sitting by the fire. Yeah, I'm sitting by the fire, and you know, and no one said anything. No one was like, hey, you can't do that. No one said you can't drink, and no one believed you couldn't drink.
Yeah.
No one was critical of me, but I remember Greg Hammond, who was speaking of my lifetime, he's like, hey, do you see anybody else with beer? And I'm like, no, they can have some of mine if they want. He's like, no, Karl, I don't think that's the point.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like, there's a lot of families here. This isn't really like I was like, well, what do you do as a Christian when you camp? Because my experience with camping was stealing my uncle's beer. Like since I was like 12 years old.
I left it out there for the kids on purpose.
Like, my Uncle Jimmy, what a great uncle this guy was. He would have a cooler full of beer that I know he left outside his trailer just for us.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be camping. Me and my cousin Nathan would sneak over there and take one. And we knew he knew.
Yeah.
And, you know, he might chew us out a little bit the next morning, but he loved us enough to leave that cooler out every day. You know, and so that was my thought of camping was, like, we're going to party.
Yep.
And as a Christian, it was a ton of fun until it started raining and we had to leave. But it was different, and we didn't know those differences. And the church was so kind as we figured it out.
Yeah.
And,
so cool.
And that for us was a huge part. You know, Christian Roberts was a huge part of speaking into me and helping me understand what to do. And it was great because it didn't have to be, you know, Andrew, the elder of the church. You know, it didn't have to be him. He didn't have to be the one that was talking to every new person. We have a church family that really took on this
helping,
like we were going to shape these people. We're all like, you know, one thing your dad said in that thing is he believes in creating a culture of discipleship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean he has to be the only one discipling us.
Exactly.
And I think that was such a huge part for us. And
And I think we were so on board with whatever, because we could see the change already happening in our lives, that we were just all in. Yeah. So whatever it is that we could do to help either strengthen how we parented, right, our marriage, like what do you even do in church? Like what, do you know what I mean? Like because clearly you play a role in church. Like, where do we fit? We were in on everything we could, as much as we could. Do you know what I mean? And we could see the change, and we just wanted to learn everything we could. So eventually, one day, hopefully, there would be maybe a Karl and Amanda that we could be like, okay, I remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then also make it a safe place for our kids to grow up and honestly how the way they should go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't want our kids to go through the pains that we went through, right? And we knew this was the answer. Jesus was the answer. And so for us, it was really interesting. People, sometimes I've had moments, where, maybe someone in my family has said, like, Karl, what changed you? Because their life's a mess, and they'll say, Karl, what changed you? And I'm like, it's just Jesus, right? It's just Jesus and God's people. That's it. Like, it was literally, that's it.